Chichen Itza, Mexico, located on the Yucatan Peninsula, are the ruins of an ancient Mayan city that thrived from 750 to 1200 AD. It was here, in 1969, that Erich von Däniken had an amazing realization involving the city's central pyramid of El Castillo. I was standing before this great pyramid. I understood nothing. I took every possible literature from a Central American archaeologist to learn what's this all about. And then I learned the game. They are talking of visitors from outside. Of course, they call them gods. According to the ancient Mayan myths, their main deity was Quetzalcoatl or Kukulkan, Cuchumats, all those different names for the exact same deity, which was described to be a winged or a flying serpent or a flying snake. Whatever it was that they saw up in the sky could best be described as a flying snake. When we're looking across the world, Chichen Itza is a very important location. It is one of those places where it is said that the gods descended to and decreed the fate of mankind. And there is one specific pyramid, El Castillo, the castle, where you see an intricate light show happening on specifically the equinoxes, March the 21st and September 21st. In the early morning, you see the sun rising up, and while the sun goes up, you see on the stairway, light and shadow, triangles of light and shadow. They are produced because of the 9 platforms. The light and shadow triangles slowly go down the step to the pyramid until the sun is up there. The message is absolutely clear. God Kukulkan visited the earth and disappeared again with the promise to return in a faraway future, so they have given this, all information of the return of the gods, into their temple. And I think this is one of the great things which Erich has done, not just in the story of Chichen Itza, but of so many other aspects and other places in this world as well, whereby he focuses on certain details and says, look, this is important. This is a detail which is extremely difficult to create. This is something which traditional archaeology tends to overlook. By making a connection between the ancient Maya's knowledge of astronomy and their precise architecture, Erich von Däniken was convinced that there was much more to his ancient alien hypothesis than he had imagined. For further proof, he looked to another Mayan temple, one that housed what some say was the first ancient astronaut, Lord Pacal. At the ancient Mayan city of Palenque was a tomb that was discovered in the 1950s, and inside this tomb was a lid on this sarcophagus for Lord Pacal, and that lid is very highly decorated with a picture of Lord Pacal. And in that picture, he's doing some really unusual things. You see a man bending forward, almost like a racing motorcyclist. He has his nose on some kind of oxygen mask. He uses his upper hand to manipulate the knob. You see his lower hand, he manipulates some controls. He's sitting on a kind of chair in a sort of capsule. When Erich looked at that lid, he saw a Mayan king in a rocket ship, and that guy was returning to the stars, going back into space. It was an exciting interpretation, and it was one of the main things in Chariots of the Gods. And when other people looked at that lid and saw his explanation, they had to agree with him. Could Erich von Däniken be correct? Was Lord Pacal really an extraterrestrial who visited Earth in the distant past, one who perhaps shared highly advanced knowledge with mankind, Central America, the impressive ruins of the ancient Maya city of Copan, and though Copan's temples, pyramids, and monuments rank among the most important of any Mayan sites, the hieroglyphic stairway at Copan was constructed in the early 700s AD with the intent of writing out the history of Copan at that time, and so it was designed as a public monument to the glory and success of all the kings from Yaxcoch-Mo, all the way to the 13th one who commissioned it to be built. All the way to the 13th one who commissioned it to be built, the ancient Maya symbols, known as glyphs, make up what historians believe is one of the oldest and most sophisticated systems of writing. But for centuries, the glyphs found throughout Mesoamerica were undecipherable. Then, in 1880, German librarian and anthropologist Ernst Forstemann cracked the code. Ernst Forstemann was a librarian at Dresden, and in his desk he kept one of the 4 Maya books, the Dresden Codex. He was a brilliant mathematician and extremely logical, and had enormous insights, and at a time when we couldn't read a single Maya hieroglyph, he was able to figure out the Maya calligraphy. Maya hieroglyphic writing uses really two components. There are logographs. Logographs are pictorial symbols that represent entire words. So Balaam, for example, which is jaguar. On the other hand, we have glyphs. They are images that represent sounds. According to interpretations of the hieroglyphic Stairway, the glyphs chronicle not only the history but also the origin of the ancient Maya rulers. The hieroglyphs are really attached to what was important to royalty at the time. They went out of their way to demonstrate how they were connected to their ancestors and the gods of their ancestors to establish their right to rule. This is a picture of a close-up of a sculpture of Waxaclajun Uba Kawil, the 13th ruler of Copan, and he's depicted here on the front in all of his finery, and then the sculptor put a hieroglyphic passage on the side. We don't think commoners could read, but all the elites could, and the king could. So he or another elite individual could come here and impress people by saying, "This demonstrates the semi-divinity of our king and his power to intercede between us and the heavens." But just what was the real source of power and authority behind the Maya priests and kings? Do the hieroglyphs reveal an otherworldly truth to their origin, as the Maya themselves maintain? Ancient astronaut theorists believe the answer is yes. What we have to think about today is that the initial cabal of priests were all in contact with extraterrestrials, and that's why they were revered. Our ancestors thought they were gods because they didn't understand the nuts and bolts aspects behind those visits. But when it all comes down to it, it was all a huge misunderstanding and a way to keep the common people in place. Mexico, the Yucatan Peninsula. For over 2,000 years, rain-drenched jungles and fertile plains served as the home of one of the ancient world's greatest civilizations. The Maya. Scholars estimate that between 250 and 900 AD, the Mayan population consisted of between 15 to 20 million people and extended as far south as Costa Rica and Guatemala. Archaeological evidence suggests the Maya were one of the first ancient people to develop a written language, used modern mathematical methods, and built massive multi-story celestial observatories. All at a time when Europeans were struggling through the so-called Dark Ages. The Maya are considered one of the great advanced civilizations with hyper-advanced astronomy, astrology, trigonometry, architecture, all of these things while the Europeans were at the time rolling around in the mud. But perhaps the most amazing Mayan achievement was their system of charting the stars and planets in the form of a calendar. The Mayans were timekeepers above and beyond all other things. Keeping up with time was magic. It was power to the Mayans. They were tracking in particular Venus, phases of the moon, eclipses, but they also tracked precession, which is an extraordinarily long cycle. What it means is that every year on, say, March 15th, the Pleiades rise for the first time in the sky. If you wait 72 years, the day of the rising of the Pleiades will be one day earlier. If you wait another 72 years, it'll be a day earlier still. And if you wait 26,000 years, the Pleiades will move back to that same day. According to scholars, the Maya believed that time, like the stars, moved in repeating patterns called calendar cycles, and that these cycles could be used to predict future events. One of these calendar cycles, the Mayan long count, lasts for 5,125 years and will end on December 21st, 2012. But why? Why did the Maya choose this date, and what did they believe would happen to our world? Perhaps a clue can be found in an astronomical phenomenon located at the center of the Milky Way galaxy, an area where there are no stars. The Mayans knew not only where the center of the galaxy was, but they understood that it was a light-year-across black hole that they called the Great Rift. The Maya believed this was the birth canal of the universe and that all things came from it. And on December 21st, 2012, the Earth, the Sun, and this birth canal, the Dark Rift, were all in perfect alignment, and this only happens every 26,000 years. Could the fact that the Maya long count calendar ends on the same day as this rare alignment in the Milky Way galaxy be a mere coincidence? And did this advanced understanding of celestial cycles really come from ancient Mayan astronomers observing the stars with only their naked eyes? The Mayans believed that this knowledge came to them from their gods, and their gods then existed in the stars. So, is it possible that these gods could have been extraterrestrials? The answer is yes. According to the Maya themselves, this knowledge was not something that they came up with, but it was given to them as a gift from the gods. The gift was not material. It was knowledge. Knowledge is the currency of the universe. Planet Earth, 65 million years ago, an 8-mile-wide asteroid hurtled towards the planet at approximately 12 miles per second and struck the region now known as the Yucatan Peninsula with a force of 100 million megatons of TNT. According to mainstream science, this catastrophic event forever changed the climate and the topography of Earth and ended the reign of the dinosaurs. The object that came in was 8 or 10 miles in diameter. That impact dug a deep hole, lofted material into the atmosphere, black dust, which shrouded the planet in darkness for months, maybe for a couple of years. There would have been a time in which the sunlight was simply shut out from the Earth's surface, and photosynthetic organisms like plants would begin to die. The plant-eating dinosaurs would have had nothing to eat and would have died off. The meat-eating dinosaurs would then have had nothing to eat either, and this might have lasted anywhere from 5 to 10 years. How quickly the extinction took place is a matter of debate. But is it possible that some species of dinosaur actually survived this cataclysmic event, and not only survived, but thrived for several thousands or even millions of years? Perhaps clues can be recovered near a crater, where scientists believe the giant asteroid struck the Earth, right in the heart of what is now the Yucatan Peninsula. Today, less than 90 miles from the epicenter of the asteroid impact lies one of the largest and best-preserved cities of the ancient Maya, Chichen Itza. You have to wonder if it's not some strange coincidence that the same spot, the Yucatan, which experienced this devastating asteroid strike that caused the extinction of the dinosaurs, is also the main habitation area of the ancient Maya. Chichen Itza is said to have been the place where the Mayans made contact with the gods. And it is an extraordinary coincidence. Of all the potential places around the Gulf of Mexico they could have chosen, they took a place where literally something fell from the sky 65 million years ago, and the Mayans believed that this contact with the gods, this contact with the sky, happened there up until the most recent of times. So what we have here is either coincidence or something else going on, and this something else is only something which hardly anybody has touched upon, but it is something which really needs to be explored in far more detail. In the Mayan area and other areas of Mexico, there are curious depictions of dinosaurs. There are pterosaurs. There is a famous dinosaur that appears on one of the paintings at Bonampak. So you have to wonder just how the Mayans knew about dinosaurs. Supposedly, dinosaurs have been extinct for millions of years, but if, as mainstream scientists believe, the dinosaurs had been extinct for millions of years before the evolution of mankind on this planet, then what would explain the wealth of Mayan art depicting interactions between humans and what appear to be dinosaurs found in the very area where they supposedly died off? Mexico City, beneath the current-day capital of Mexico, lie the ruins of the ancient Aztec metropolis known as Tenochtitlan. The Aztecs dominated much of central Mexico from the 14th to the 16th century AD, and Tenochtitlan is considered to be their first official settlement. An incredibly sophisticated city featuring a grid system of canals and causeways. But according to their historical texts, the Aztec civilization did not originate here. Edwin. The Aztecs say they started from this place up in the north called Chicomostac. It was a cave, and inside that cave it had 7 different caverns, and there were said to be 7 different tribes. And the Aztecs say they were part of the 7 tribes that came from the 7 chambers of Chicomostac. Narrator. While Chicomostac was once thought to be a mythological place, some scholars believe archaeological evidence suggests that it really did exist and is located at the site of the ancient pyramid complex known today as Teotihuacan. Edwin. the place of 7 caves, we think maybe that has actually been located archaeologically at the site of the main temple of Teotihuacan called the Pyramid of the Sun, which sits just north of the Valley of Mexico. Underneath it is actually a cave with 7 different spots that it extends out into, and that's where the Aztecs said their original ancestors came from. Narrator. In the 16th century, Spanish chronicler Jerónimo de Mendieta recorded the legends of the local native population. According to their accounts, the Aztec believed that they were fashioned by a group of stranded gods within these 7 caves. Jonathan Mendieta wrote an account of Aztec legend. In this report, he describes a giant flint knife landing on the earth, and the earth was trembling and shaking as this enormous flint knife landed. Then, some 600 gods disgorged from this thing, and they are responsible for launching Aztec civilization. Edwin. The Aztecs talk about the many gods coming down to earth and creating humans. They create them out of bone, ash, and their own blood, and they make them somewhat in their own image, but they make them specifically so that they will honor them, and they will serve them. Giorgio. All of a sudden, there is a description of a giant flint knife that descended from the sky, and somebody emerged out of it. One has to wonder whether or not our ancestors were witness to a landing of some type of a craft. If so, then the Aztec story suggests that at some point in our history, extraterrestrials created mankind. And something very strange was going on at Teotihuacan. Narrator, located just 30 miles northeast of Mexico City, the Teotihuacan complex encompasses nearly 8 square miles and is dated to the 1st century AD. It is the oldest and most sophisticated city of Mesoamerica, an area that extends from northern Mexico down through Central America. The civilization predated the Maya by at least 100 years. At its peak, it was said to have supported nearly 100,000 residents. It was also the largest city in the entire Western Hemisphere prior to the 15th century, and served as the major commerce and religious center for the region. Edwin. The significance of Teotihuacan cannot be overstated. It is the Rome of Mesoamerica. The things that Teotihuacan did set the pattern for all other city-states after it. Narrator. The central features of the complex are 2 large pyramids known as the Pyramid of the Sun and the Pyramid of the Moon, as well as a temple dedicated to Quetzalcoatl, the feathered serpent. These structures stand alongside a thoroughfare referred to as the Avenue of the Dead. Over 200 smaller buildings, platforms, and pyramids are found adjacent to the avenue, and there are thousands of living quarters just outside the complex. But as incredible as Teotihuacan is, no one knows exactly who built this metropolis or what happened to its occupants. Edwin. Teotihuacan, despite its size, has no hieroglyphs whatsoever. There are other cultures in Mesoamerica that were using writing systems. There's nothing like that at Teotihuacan, so we don't really have a clear history of what happened at Teotihuacan, and we can't really find evidence of their rulers. To develop a complete, huge, complex citadel, will we have such a sophisticated site that embodies engineering principles, craftsmanship, art? Where did it originate? Where are the smaller versions of this? Well, we don't find any, so we don't have a progression, an evolution, to show where this came from. So we have to ask, where did it come from? David. We've become conditioned to look at these awesome works of stone architecture and think, oh, primitive people did that, and they used primitive methods and primitive technology. But we have to rethink the fundamental assumptions and come to a greater and greater level of understanding that the technology required to build these artifacts, in fact, is greater than anything that they possessed. Teotihuacan, Mexico. In 2003, archaeologists in this ancient city made a startling discovery. A previously unknown tunnel lies 45 feet beneath the Temple of the Feathered Serpent, one of the most sacred pyramids on the continent. Working underground, scientists methodically explored the debris-filled tunnel using a robotic probe with an infrared scanner. After some 250 feet, they reached a side cave. The tail end of the tunnel, the terminus, is loaded with yellowish metallic-looking orbs, apparently colored clay. Edwin. The orbs are very interesting objects. I've never seen anything like them in any other kind of archaeological context. On the inside, they are clay. On the outside, they're coated with some sort of gold flecks, so they look like golden balls. What purpose these golden balls served is unknown, but some archaeologists believe the cavern in which they were found was a place of sacred ritual. Like the clay balls, the walls were also covered in gold flecks. So, if the cavern was illuminated by a torch during a ceremony, it would have shimmered with 1,000 points of light resembling the cosmos. David. These beautiful orbs of yellow material strongly suggest that someone was illustrating planets. We do know that the Mayan calendar is heavily calibrated to the orbital parameters of the planets in our solar system, specifically the inner planets. The red planet's connection to the Mayan calendar is portrayed in the Dresden Codex. This rare book from Mayan antiquity describes the calendar in relation to Mars' movements across the sky. The Dresden Codex is one of 4 remaining books that the Maya wrote. It is, in many regards, an astronomical almanac. There are many different sections of the book that talk about different astronomical phenomena. One of them is the planet Mars. There's an almanac near the end of the book that breaks up days into 10 groups of 78 days, equaling 780 days, which is the synodic period of Mars. In other words, the time it takes Mars to get back to the same place on the horizon from a human perspective. Scholars believe Mars played an important role in the Maya astrology that's described in the Dresden Codex. Above that almanac is a sky band shown with various aspects of celestial symbols we recognize out of hieroglyphs, and hanging off of it is this interesting dragon-like creature. That dragon-like creature is recognized as the face of Mars, giant megalithic stone heads, figurines of what appear to be flying craft, and statues that evoke cultures found on the other side of the world. According to ancient astronaut theorists, it is this information that the Catholic Church sought to suppress when they attempted to destroy all traces of the Maya culture nearly 500 years ago. Now, what's interesting is all these great ancient cultures, including the Mayan, seem to have knowledge of math and science which we can't explain how they got this information. When you ask them, they always tell you it came from the gods. If the proof existed, not only of cross-Pacific migration but also extraterrestrial visitation, many ancient astronaut theorists believe it would have posed a serious threat to a Catholic hierarchy steeped in the bigotry and intolerance of the Inquisition. But if this incredible theory is true, what then happened to the extraterrestrial visitors? Why did they come here only to leave or go into hiding? Childress. Because of various wars going on, cataclysms eventually, these civilizations began to collapse, as civilizations do. And what happened in the end was the airships. They stopped coming, and then the extraterrestrial demigods pulled their technology back. So, we don't know what happened there with the extraterrestrials and where they went. And so, you have to wonder if they don't want us to know that they are here. The extraterrestrials may have just decided, okay, humans on planet Earth have got the seeds of civilization. Let's just stand back and see what they do. As far as ancient astronaut theorists are concerned, the proof of extraterrestrial visitation is still out there, much of it buried beneath centuries of dirt and rocks. But every day, the truth is being revealed. In February 2018 through March 2019, archaeologists made a number of incredible discoveries just in the area of Mexico alone. Mayan artifacts were discovered in Teotihuacan, a location previously thought to have been inhabited only by the Aztecs. 200 more artifacts were found in a hidden cave under the Mayan site of Chichen Itza. And beneath dense jungles near Lake Pátzcuaro, LIDAR scanning uncovered an ancient city the size of Manhattan, Giorgio. In the early 1990s, there were these science fiction stories that one day we'll be able to somehow look underneath the overgrown jungle. And true enough, Here we are 25 years later, and that technology now exists. Satellites are now able to look through the soil into the ground to see if other structures exist. And guess what? They do. We have only now begun a new era of discovery, and I predict thousands as of yet undiscovered sites will finally see the light of day. If you have a puzzle with 1,000 pieces, in order to see the final picture, you don't need to lay down all 1,000 pieces. If you lay down 980 pieces, I guarantee you will see the big picture. Is mankind on an incredible threshold of discovery? One that will confirm that extraterrestrial visitation has occurred all over the world and for centuries? Perhaps beneath the ruins of a newly discovered site in Mexico, archaeologists will uncover the ultimate evidence of alien contact and proof of humanity's true origins. Teotihuacan, Mexico. Dating back to at least the 1st century AD, Edwin Quetzalcoatl, the feathered serpent, goes all the way back to Olmec times to the BCE period. But the first place we really see Quetzalcoatl is in Teotihuacan, the city just north of modern Mexico City. They built an actual pyramid, a temple of Quetzalcoatl, right around 250 AD. So it's probably Teotihuacan who really put forward the idea and the identity of Quetzalcoatl as a deity for the rest of Mesoamerica. Quetzalcoatl was a creator god. He was associated with the planet Venus. He brought the rain, he brought water, he brought civilization, he brought the arts. This was the creator divinity for the Aztec culture. He was a flying serpent. He was a dragon. Quetzalcoatl brought peace, harmony, and high wisdom, and a very high level of intelligence and teaching to this particular land. He was often depicted as a human being as well. He arrived on a raft of serpents and settled on these lands. Edwin Quetzalcoatl also shows up in the post-classic Maya city of Chichen Itza.